What's up, good people? Welcome into Montgomery and Company. I'm Renee Montgomery. So listen, we got some heavy hitters today. We have one of those, those top agents. Show me the money, Jerry Maguire style. We got Erin Kane, who she represents some of our top women's athletes, and we're going to talk about that. We also have Jeremy Fall, who, what chef gets signed to RocNation? Like, how does that happen? Like, how did you do that, Jeremy? Well, I'm going to ask him about that. And then also we got MoCo Newsroom coming through. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in sports. There's a lot going on in business. So we're going to talk about that with MoCo Newsroom. It's lit. We're turned up. Let's go. We all know the WNBA Finals is going on. I'm recording this right now on Tuesday. As everybody knows, the game was on Wednesday. So I don't know what has happened in game 4 of the WNBA Finals. But what I do know is that Chelsea Gray will not be suited up, nor will Kia Stokes, 2 of the Las Vegas Aces starters. So it makes me think about adversity in sports. And so that's what I'm about to talk about, because when it comes to sports, all there is adversity. It's like very rarely in sports is everything going right, because you got to think about this in sports. If your team is playing well and they're killing it, there's going to be somebody on that team that wishes that they were getting more minutes to be more part of that success. Not that they wish that there was less success, but they wish that there was they were more a part of the success. They played a bigger role. They want to have an impact and be a part of everything good that's going on. So that's already a juggling act that coaches are having to deal with, where you have a player on the bench that knows that if they got more minutes, they could produce more. I mean, think about on your favorite team, if you're a fan, there's always that person that when they come in the game, you're like, oh man, they have really good minutes. They are really impactful. I mean, everybody, even think about the New York Liberty, where Marine, everybody's getting a hold of Marine now, and they're like, okay, MJ got it like that. You got LeBron tweeting about her. You got Tony Parker pulling up to the games. The French Connection happening there. You got, oh my goodness, Victor Wembanyama wearing her jersey in the tunnel walk. Okay, there's, you can see that this player has a lot of talent. But I bet you those same fans will know that there's some games where you probably wish she had more minutes, or you're like, oh man, why didn't she play? Or she probably could have helped us. That's sports. That's called adversity. There's coaches that are like, well, the reason that she didn't play those minutes is because Betnijah Laney's killing it. And there's like, when you start to look at Betnijah Laney and you start to notice, like, yeah, she's killing it, you start to have to see it's the same discussion that happens when the first team whatever comes out. So, like if you have first team All NBA, second team All NBA, or you have NBA All-Star, WNBA All-Star, first team All WNBA league fits, because fashion is a big deal now. Players are always like, wait, I feel snubbed. There's always going to be players that you feel are snubbed, and then you're going to always have to go to that list and be like, all right, who you taking off the list? Because right now the WNBA just had that. We had our first team announced, our second team announced, and we even had the league fits, first and second team announced. People felt like they were snubbed. That's sports. That's adversity. That's life. So when I think about what happens now, okay, the Las Vegas Aces, I'm sure they felt like all season they've had to go through adversity. They weren't allowed a replacement player or one of those players throughout the whole season, for whatever reason. So they probably feel like they already had adversity, even though people probably are like, oh man, you guys are killing it. I played on super teams before where that championship, yeah, we won it. Even let's take my senior year at UConn. We didn't lose a game. We lost 0 games, and I was stressed out. It was like one of the most stressful years of my life, of my entire life. And we went undefeated. We lost 0 games, and baby, the adversity was high. The stress level was high. The energy was high. Everything was high. I was stressed out. So I'm just bring that up because a lot of times we see these two super teams going head to head. And yes, we saw, New York hit adversity early and people started to talk about it early. Like, oh, wow, this team was supposed to be a super team. It's like, yes, they still are, because look at the players on the team. That's what makes them a super team. Just right now, they're figuring it out. It's the same for Vegas. They've had, whether they're a super team or not, there's so much adversity. So the only reason I'm saying that is because we're going into game 4 of the finals. Now, if you're the Las Vegas Aces, you probably feel like I've already been through so much adversity because I've already told y'all, just because it's a good team doesn't mean that there was no stress. My most stressful year of my life was my senior year at UConn, and we lost 0 games. So I'm sure that the Las Vegas Aces have had a lot of stress because they want to be the best. And now you lose 2 starters going into game 4 of 5 total games in the WNBA finals. Man, I mean, this is theater, because look at this, like how it all sets up. Vegas wins the first 2 games, and it's not even close. The first 2 games were won by a combined 45 total points. We broke down the stats of the New York Liberty guards against the Las Vegas Aces guards, and it was dramatic. 153 points to like 49 points in the 2 games. It was dramatic. And then here comes the New York Liberty. They're like, yeah, okay, wait till we get home. And they had to play for pride. Their coach called them out. Sandy Brondello was like, that's unacceptable what we just did. Unacceptable. So the players took it personal. I'm sure they had a come to Jesus meeting. Even if they didn't make it public, somebody on that team was like, looky here. We're not going out like that. We can't go out like that. So then they come in game 3 and they come out swinging, and you can just already tell it's a different team and it's at home, and they sold Brooklyn out. They sold the Barclays out. It was over 17,000. It was actually 17,143 people, I believe, sold out Barclays. And they had, I mean, it was popping. They had little Kim come through. I mean, it was popping. It was a party. Ted Lasso was on the sidelines going crazy. Vivica Fox was there. All the WNBA legends were there. It was a who's who event. And the home team won. And Roy told me, don't forget about Ellie. We can't forget about Ellie, who Cardi B just shouted out Ellie, because if y'all don't follow Big Liberty Ellie, I'm gonna tell you right now, when she get to swinging that tail and my sound like bongo, I ain't scared to admit. I'm telling you, Ellie, it's a show happening, and this is the most theater thing of sports. That's why I say there's no reality TV better than sports, because right now, New York Liberty are surging. It's no question, and now the New York Liberty are down 2-1 with one more home game. Okay. And Roy is saying better than the Crimson Tide's mascot. He's talking about Ellie. Now listen, Roy is fighting that fight with y'all live. I'm just saying it. I'm just the mouthpiece. But now we got the New York Liberty home again for game 4. Chelsea Gray's not playing. Kia Stokes is not playing. They have an opportunity. You got to remember, if you're listening to this, I don't know what happened. So I'm just as excited as you to see. But they have an opportunity to tie it up 2-2 and go into game 5 on the road in Vegas. Now, I didn't mention this already because those games have passed, but Vegas on games 1 and 2, they sold the joint out a week before it even happened. It was sold out. It was star-studded as well. The Los Angeles Lakers, that's funny because LeBron wants to own the Las Vegas team in the NBA, but the Los Angeles Lakers team pulled up. It was a who's who event there. I think Ted Lasso flew there too because he's a big New York fan. It was a who's who event. It was the same thing in Vegas. So what I'm saying is that sports, man, if you like drama and if you like just energy, energy. But if you like all of that, I'm telling you right now, it's lit. It's lit to be a WNBA fan. It's lit to see how now more people are starting to get into the WNBA. Shouts to Black Twitter. I see the crossover happening, and it's just crazy. And Roy wants me to say that Ted Lasso's real name is Jason Sudeikis. Boom. And he's clapping. Boom. Because I said that right. Let's go. So the WNBA, man, we lit. And it's like, and if you're wondering, like, I'm the co-owner and vice president of the Atlanta Dream. And I stand 10 toes down for the Dream all day. Those are my babies. That's my squad. But what's happening right now is a beautiful thing. It's giving you everything you could have wanted in sports. It's giving you theater. It's giving you the best performances. It's giving you just energy. So I don't know, man. I'll be covering game 4 just like I was covering game 1, 2, and 3, and I'll be covering game 5 if we have it. I'll be covering it on NBA TV. Catch me on the post game, baby. Let's get it. All right, let's get it. All right, we're here with Jeremy Fall. All right, he has his memoir, Falling Upwards, Living the Dream, One Panic Attack at a Time, which, I mean, come on, title. Come on, title. Jeremy, welcome into Montgomery Co.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so listen, I want to just start. Let me start a little earlier because, okay, you wrote a book, but I want to start with we got to figure out how does a chef sign to RocNation? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, actually, that's interesting. I was at a Kings game with my friend Chris, who's an old friend of mine for I would say for I think over a decade now. And at the time, I was looking for a manager, and I wanted his opinion, and he had just gone to Rock Nation, and then we basically talked through the idea of him and I working together. This was years ago, and then from there, we decided to make it official, and he was at Rock, so.
Okay, so you tried to make it. I know you told me before we even came on air that I was like, "Oh, it's not going to be exciting." You're Jeremy. You're not going to win by not letting me be excited about
Yeah,
a chef.
I am happy you're excited. I mean, I'm excited to be here talking to you. I was saying I didn't want to disappoint you. Are those wrap snacks behind you?
You better know it is. We got.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. We got the Migos here, or is that who that is? Which? Because I know we got a lot. Sometimes people eat them and then don't change it back out. But yeah, we got the Migos back
I was
there.
gonna say that looks like Migos, but and then I see, is that popcorn? I can't really see that in the corner.
Yeah, I like TV and get your popcorn. We'll put
Right.
on a show here. And okay, since we going through, we got the bobblehead, the Outcast bobblehead that you can't get nowhere. Okay.
Okay.
And I see you got a Chanel surfboard behind you. So what's
Well, you have more interesting background than I do. Um,
Jeremy? This is going to be an interview about you trying to convince us how boring you are, and I'm not gonna let it happen.
I mean, let's see who's a better debater.
All right, bet then. I'm gonna get right into it. Your memoir is called "Falling Upwards: Living the Dream, One Panic Attack at a Time." That's not boring. Why? How did you come up with that?
The title?
Yes, the title, literally.
Well, my last name is Fall, so that's one of the reasons why. And then the concept of falling upwards is basically, in general, is like you're going through things that you're dealing with, but you're on the up in terms of like getting in this scenario, it's like bettering my mental health and becoming more comfortable and happy with myself. So it felt like a fitting title, especially with my last name. And I think falling downwards would have been really depressing.
So you really don't want us to think you're that depressing, but
Yeah, exactly.
okay. But I like that though. So you, it's interesting because you wrote a book and you're signed to Rock Nation, and I feel like we have
Previously
no
signed,
idea.
but by the way, previously signed. But yes,
Previously signed, sorry,
yeah,
previously
yeah,
signed.
no worries.
But we really have no idea why. So it's like when you present and you're like, hey, I need a manager. I was told one time that you don't need a manager until you have something to manage. And so clearly they came on board because you had something to manage. Uh-huh. This war, we're gonna win. What were you doing that made them say yes? Because it's not gonna just say yes to anybody, Jeremy.
Well, I wasn't posing in photos with Nas,
Oh, wow, this guy's good.
contrary to you. Um, but I mean, I guess I do have some with Jay-Z, but no, I'm joking. I'm
Oh,
joking.
you do. You don't have any
No,
photos with Jay-Z?
I have no idea. I from the Rock Brunch potentially, but
Okay, because I'm going there next. Yes.
but I mean, it's funny when you say that, like something to manage, like that's interesting because I do feel like a lot of people just get these teams just to say they have them, and then they don't do shit. I might not. Sorry, am I allowed to cuss on this?
You are
Okay,
actually.
they don't do shit. Okay, but essentially, like, yeah, I mean, the way I've looked at my career still to this day is very much like you would an artist or a musician. I mean, products like food products or like tracks. I mean, you do brand deals. You know, I used to look at restaurants like albums almost when I had restaurants. Because it was just like this like inspiration for something, and then I mean, it really depends on like how you look at. But if you zoom out, it's very similar. There's an in-person aspect with like touring and cooking demos and things like that. Like I do think they actually resemble each other more than people realize. I guess the one thing that musicians have that I'm more jealous of is that they can upload something and hit people all around the world. Like I have a physical product that needs to get to people. So it's like, how do you tell the story where, I have fans from around the world who have never tried my food and who are still fans, right? And I've had
Well, how
conversations
did
with them
that
before.
work? I'm just
That's the
curious.
thing. Well, I think for me, food was always a way to tell stories, and it was like I never try to compete to make like the best pork belly or whatever it is. Like a lot of chefs compete on technique. I would, in terms of technique, like I would get annihilated. I don't compete or anything like that. That's just not what I do. But I think where my strength is telling the story around the food, doing things that are different where people are like, oh shit, like that's a very unique take on looking at the food world. So I think people become fans of that and through that get inspired to like carve their own path and like follow their dreams. I think that's where I connect with people the most.
Man, I love this. I would have never compared an artist and a chef before I
Yeah,
met Jeremy Fall, but I've never met a chef that ever got signed like this before. So this is great because now I want to see more. Like I've already obviously, I stalked you before we came on here.
for
So I've
sure. I did the
obviously
same thing. I think we
so
were at the ESPYs the same time, by the way. I just realized that on seeing your photo. I think we were
for
there at this. Yeah, I think
real,
so.
Jeremy, do you think it's normal these events you're at? Because like you just said you was at
What is
the
that supposed to mean?
well, because you try to act like you're so boring, and it's like you were at the ESPYS, you were at the Rock Nation brunch. First of all, there's nobody that's normal there. Everybody there is above average, excelling humans in a sense of anything, and you were in the building. So, what was that like? What was like? This that is an infamous brunch, Jeremy.
Well, if I was managed by them, I would hope they invite me to brunch. Otherwise, I would have felt very left out. But um,
Well, the guest list could have been short.
that is true. Yeah, I mean, I think I've also always liked to play in lanes that no one else is really dabbling in and kind of and defining what that is for myself. So, a chef that, I had a show with Miguel, for example, a cooking music show, right? Where like he made a beat, I made a dish. So like we did a season of that. But if you think about like, I could have gone the route doing like the food festival, and I have nothing against that, by the way, but like the food festivals, I did some Food Network stuff, but I could have gone that route, but I was just like, how do I just stick out and be different? And also like one of my advantages, you could say, is probably my age, right? Like I opened my first restaurant when I was 25. So
Not
like
normal, Jeremy.
that is true. But I also started in nightlife when I was like 16. So I was
Okay.
like 10 years. Do you know what I'm saying? So like
Yeah, you did your
I
10
should
years
start
in the
yeah.
game.
Yeah. So by the time then it made sense. But I mean I don't know. I think I just so the advantage that I have is that when I manage to execute something, I don't really have competition in terms of like, okay, he's doing a cooking show with music or whatever it is, right? The disadvantage is I have to try to re-educate people into, and I'm not saying that like re-educate in a good way, by the way, just re-educate people to think outside the box that it's possible, right? Because I have gotten over the years, I got a lot of bad reviews where people are like, they're so used to thinking inside the box. They're like, why is this person doing this? Why is this
Yeah.
person doing that when they should be? And it's like, it's still today a bit of a battle to explain to people that things don't have to necessarily fit in a certain paradigm. But so I would say that's been my biggest challenge is trying to explain that to people. When a lot of people can just say like, would you define yourself, for example? Would you just say like, I'm an athlete?
No, I would not just say I'm only an athlete. No. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. But if someone were to right now have to describe, they would probably say you're an athlete.
Yeah, I hope they do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, you know it. Because
Yep.
yeah, it's like it is a part of who I am. So it's like, but to some people it might be only thing I am to them.
Yeah, but if you're an athlete that paints or does art, like you're not an artist, like you're just an athlete. Of course you're so it's like, but they're still
Okay.
going to be like, oh, you're an athlete. I mean, people call Kanye a rapper.
Yeah.
People call Jay-Z a rapper. People
Facts.
call, what I mean, like all these different, one of these people do a lot. I mean, people call Pharrell like a musician. Like,
I mean,
I mean, yeah, sure, but
how
like,
do you describe? I mean, how would you?
that's what I mean. So it's interesting. We feel the need to check that like DMV box, where it's like, what do you do for a living,
Right.
occupation? So yeah. So anyways, that's kind of how I look at it.
No, I love that because you're talking about the new age athlete that we see now, where we see Dame Dalla, we see Flage, we see these athletes and whatever else they are, athlete and business owner, athlete and activist, athlete and artist. It's like you see it now, and you talked about like getting bad reviews, and you're very open when it comes to mental health. So I'm just curious, like, I thought about Panic at the Disco, one panic at a time. So I'm like, how do you handle when, you're in the public eye, but you also are taking care of your mental health too? Like, how do you handle your anxiety?
Well, I think originally I started out doing things in a very raw way. Like I always think that like the first shit that you create is going to be the most authentic because you don't care, you have nothing to lose. And then over time, I started doing it for the awards, the accolades. I thought of it more of a strategy, like this is what people want to see. And then I started being less and less authentic. And then I think that's why my mental health took a toll because I had, I'd gone Forbes 30 under 30. I was at the Rock Brunch, like that's how the book opens. And all these different things. I had just filmed I was about to film the show, and that's when I was like, shit, like I have all these things, but why do I feel so depressed? And I think it's because I felt inauthentic. Like I was just, and all those things I did, I loved, but it was almost like I wasn't addressing the elephant in the room that I was like pretty unhappy and had really tough mental illness that wasn't addressed. I had put on hold. So the way I would compare it is like you're at an amazing place, but you're sick physically, like you have a really bad flu and you're continuing to pretend you don't, but ultimately you feel like shit, right? So it's just like that was kind of how I felt. And it was like I had to take a step back and fix the flu, theoretically, and then go back into doing what I was doing. So that, and then by complete coincidence, the pandemic hit literally right like during that. So because the brunch thing was like end of January, early February, and then the pandemic hit March. So like it was a very quick kind of whirlwind of like, oh, now I really have to take care of this. You know what I mean? Because
Did
now like
that
I
help?
have,
Like, did
yeah.
getting time to slow down, in your opinion, now in hindsight, did that help you, or did the isolation hurt you? Like, which way do you think the pandemic? Because you said right at that time is when it hit. So now in hindsight, how do you feel about that?
That's a good question. I mean, I had 14 restaurants. I sold them at the end of 2019. So I went from being never home, always at restaurants, moving around, events, did the show. It was during award season. I mean, you probably remember like everyone was starting to talk about this virus, like that was coming. It was like award season, so like we all had things to do, but everyone was kind of starting to use sanitizer, which by the way, I was always doing that. I don't know why people.
You mean to tell me you washed your hands with hot water for at
Yeah,
least 20
I
seconds
know,
before the
and
pandemic?
I didn't cough on people. It was crazy.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I know. So like we were. I remember people being like almost making jokes about it, like, "Oh, I gotta go wash my hands," and I was like, "What the like? What? You weren't doing that before?" But then like I started working on all this stuff, and then the pandemic hit. So I think I would say it accelerated my growth in the sense that I think I would have still gone through it, pandemic or not, but I probably would have been doing it 50-50 of the time where I was still doing events, gone through award season, like all these things
Yeah.
half the time, and versus now I just had to focus on it 100%. I think that's what accelerated, but I don't think it's the cause. So that what made me reflect, because a lot of people, the pandemic caused them to reflect. I was already reflecting. I think it just made me reflect faster.
I love that. Okay, and
Yeah.
so I feel like books are sometimes a reflection, and if it's about
Mhm.
yourself, then it's a reflection of you. So, like, what do you want people to take away from your memoir? Or like, why did you write it, and what do you want people to get out of it?
Yeah, so it's funny. Originally, I wrote the book as like so I posted this thing on Instagram. I took a detox break, right, from Instagram for like 2 3 months. And I came back, and off that post where I had opened up about my mental health for the first time, I had like tons of comments and like DMs, and like it was from people I didn't know follow me. Some people didn't follow me. There was a lot of men, which was interesting.
Hmm.
That were like, hey man, like I've never felt I could say this. You just put into word, like that kind of thing. So it was interesting because I was like, wow, I should write a book. But my first inclination was I should write a book about like business lessons, kind of like I still went into that where I was thinking like people are connecting to like how I'm writing. And then I went a little bit deeper and I was like, there might be something really about mental health. Like, in a mental health book that's not written by a psychiatrist or therapist
Right.
or someone who's like, and I don't know if they've done this before, but like if like Chrissy Teigen or Beyonce write a mental health book, like it's going to do well, obviously, but it's still not as relatable as someone like me, right? Because like I still, to a certain extent, like people can connect and relate to me more than they can to someone like, Beyonce or Chrissy Teigen or whoever it is. Because sometimes when like very big celebrities write these things, you feel for them, but you don't necessarily connect to it where you're like, this is exactly what's going to happen to me, because they've become, larger than life to a certain extent. So I was like, I'm in a pretty good midpoint. Um, and then I realized, I was like, when I started talking to my agents and the publishers, I really realized how it was like almost like never been done, that men were so open about mental health in a way that's relatable, that's not like clinical or whatever, that's very modern, like culturally savvy, that just, it feels like you're talking, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't realize how different that was in other books.
Wow. Like, I mean, I can understand everything you say. I think Drake had a line that says, like, I'm getting so big, my music's not even relatable. Like, you know what I mean? So, to your
Yeah.
point of, it's like, if you are writing from your experience and your lived experiences, Jeremy, you're still trying to convince us that you're just normal Joe. But it's like, you went to the Rock Nation brunch. I'm sorry. You have a Chanel surfboard behind you. I'm
I'm gonna
sorry.
cover it.
You are Forbes 30 under 30, Magic Johnson's 32 under 33, 32 under 32. You have a gazillion followers on Instagram. You're the first few personality managed by Jay-Z's. Right? Like, I'm just making sure you understand. This is why y'all should read his memoir. Of course, is why I'm letting y'all know this man has lived a lot of lives. His memoir is Falling Upwards, Living the Dream, One Panic at a Time. I keep hearing Panic at the Disco every time you say that, and I feel like we're around the same age, so it's like amazing.
Yeah,
So it's amazing. But thank you, Jeremy, for joining me here on MoCo. I love your journey.
of course. Thank you for having me.
So you got Jeremy Fall, who was once signed to Roc Nation, and then we got Erin Kane, who is an agent getting her clients signed to the biggest brands and the biggest companies in the world. I was excited to talk to her. Listen, I keep on with this Jerry Maguire stuff, but women's sports is booming and Erin Kane is in the thick of it. So we're here right now with Erin Kane, and I always talk about like the women's sports game, and we have a sports agent now with XL Sports. So Erin, welcome to the show. We already been chatting, y'all. We were already saying we're excited to talk to each other. So what's up, Erin?
Totally excited. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So I love getting inside the game. And I think that's something that's happening in women's sports right now, where there's more storytelling. We start to find out more about the players. I love it all. And so having you here, you represent some of our top superstars in our leagues. But I want to start with, why did you get into sports management? Because you had your own agency. Is it Clarion? So,
Yes.
yes, it was
Let's not
Clarion.
talk
So
about this. Now I'm with Excel.
I know, but I'm just saying, why did you get into it? Like, what brought you to
Oh,
sports?
well, totally grew up in this business. So my dad was a sports agent, different sport. He was a golf agent, played professional baseball, but grew up around it, and then just found myself in a role in my late 20s, or in a spot in my life where this was the job that I was offered. And I thought, this is so familiar. I can totally do this. This will be like a 6-month long thing for me. But I really, in that 6 months, I found that I appreciated a lot of the challenges in that space at that time, and specifically in the role that I was working in. And I wanted to like overcome those obstacles and meet that challenge. And so that really is what got me hooked in terms of like doing this work. And it was it was a very different time. It was a long time ago, back in 2006. So, but yeah, that was the beginning of it. And then over time, the job just evolved. And I'm extremely grateful to Elena Deladon for choosing to work with me in 2015, which was really my introduction to women's basketball, like to the WNBA. And I don't mean, obviously I'd watched it and seen it from the outside, but that was my first step into the community of women's basketball. And yeah, since then it's been really incredible, and to see the growth of the game and everything else, and be part of that, and cheering a lot, cheering you on, cheering everybody on who's been able to do such incredible things.
No, thank you for walking us through that, because it's crazy we know actors who have kids that end up being actors. This is a sports agent who had a kid. So we don't normally see that progression. That's actually dope. And so what is your pitch then Elena Delle Donne is an MVP caliber, like, for somebody that doesn't have anyone in the space yet, because like you said, you're a fan, you watch it, but you didn't have any WNBA per se clients. Like, how do you get someone like Elena Delle Donne?
Well, so my background up into that point was I'd started working with Jenny Finch in 2006, not as her agent, but really in sort of like a marketing manager or client service role. But that relationship had evolved over time, and I had done a lot of work for her. A book, broadcasting deal, like all sorts of marketing opportunities, all sorts of things like that.
That was one. TikTok, Erin, you better.
Well, that was one part of it. And in that time, I'd also worked on brand partnerships for a lot of top men's sport athletes. And in that had seen the opportunity to like really build relationships with brands. And there's nothing, as you know, or historically, there really hasn't been anything as important as the off the court revenue in women's sports. It was not coming from playing contracts. Overseas maybe, but like if you wanted to stay in the US, you needed an agent who could find brand partnership opportunities for you. And that was really important to Elena. And I had, while I had not worked in women's basketball, my track record otherwise, I think, was really pretty compelling. I was, one thing I will say is I feel really lucky throughout my career to have worked with really, really smart people. So I might be like the tip of the spear and the athlete might sign with me, but there's always people on my team around me supporting that are also just incredibly smart. It's a team effort. And like I said, I have family connections to Delaware as well.
Oh,
Elena didn't know that, but for me, I followed her. I followed her career also because of that. There's just a lot of love for her in that state. And so it felt like a very easy kind of relationship. And, if you think about where things were in 2015, it was pre-Olympics, I think she was about to win her first MVP. So yes. It was just it was a great time, to have that opportunity, and we did a lot of fun stuff.
Okay, so basically what you said is you came in with a receipts of this is what I could do for you. I love this though, because we about to talk our talk, because I think that in women's sports, I feel like if women were a little bit more flashy, I feel like if women knew what, like I play with some ballers, like, you know what I mean? I play with some dope women, and I think that's the part of the game that's elevating now. You start to see the style, like Arike Agumbawale been lit, you know what I mean? The way she dresses has been lit, but now look, we can just see it more. So I'm putting the spotlight on you right now because I think it's important. And so you've negotiated men's contracts and women's contracts. Is there a different way you have to go about negotiating when it is a woman's brand deal? I would say understanding the fact that women don't get as many deals, so they might not be as apt to, you might be like, hey, this is a star in the WNBA, but does it hold the same weight if you go to a brand and say it's a star in the NBA? I don't know. I'm just curious, like, how does that work?
So again, this has evolved so much over the span of my career. But what I always would say is, like, I don't have to go in the door to a company and be like, here's why an NBA player is important, or here's why the NBA is important. They already, like, culturally and every other way have some sense of how big the league is, how big it is globally, like who the audience is. And we're really getting there with the WNBA, but for a lot of years, the first sell was like, here's why you should be involved in women's sports. And to some extent, it still is. But now that we have the media doing a little bit more of that work for us and saying, like, look at the audience growth, look at the viewership numbers, there are these like key indicators that the media will happily point out for us now. So then it has become much more part of like the common discourse. Like people get it and they're talking about it. And so you don't have to always come in and say like, here's why this is good. You know, I used to be like, look, women sports fans are so avid. They're so avid. They have to work so hard to be fans. So when you have them, they over-index. They are much more likely to buy products from companies that support the athletes that they love. And that's one way to get in there. But it's so incredible to see more and more female athletes really like almost transcending their sport and becoming like pop culture icons. And, you know, I mean, I love it at the NIL level because I think it just like pops up into the W2. But it is just, it is night and day. I was talking to, there are a couple markers for me that I think are so vivid in my head. One is, you know, New York. Like I sat in that arena the other night, courtside with the head of, you know, one of the partners of my company, one of the founders. I know, which I love that he was there. He was pumped. He had the best time. Another one of my colleagues, Colleen Garrity, who's amazing. And I was looking around and going like 4 years ago, I was sitting in what essentially is like a community center in Westchester.
You're about Westchester where I
play. But like, can you believe the change?
It's like, because I'm gonna tell you right now, so I'm so glad that you brought that up, because for me, New York is like, it's one of those trips where I love Broadway shows, right? So I would just literally go by myself. Every time we had a trip to New York, I would go to the Broadway shows. And so when we played in Westchester, it was like, I did not even feel like this was my New York trip anymore. It was like, where are we? What's happening? Am I in a theater? Am I actually the show now in the theater? So it's like, but to see it now, I mean, like, I just love growth for the league. It's crazy over there.
It is. Well, and speaking of that, Westchester, I would go over there when my clients were playing. My husband's from that area, so he actually played in that gym when he was in high school, which like made me hate it even more for you guys. But there's a really good pizzeria over there called Sal's. So we would always we would go and like get slices for whatever one, you know, clients were you got to have some like New York pizza.
Yeah, I wish I would have known then. At least I would have got Sal's.
We got to put some people on to Sal's.
Yeah, shouts to Sal's. I didn't have it then, but I wish I did. So we see movies, right? Like we've all seen the movies, Jerry Maguire, and you have, like I talked about, Enrique, you have Nafisha, superstars. Is your relationship, is that, like, we know the movies are fake, so what's a real relationship look like with an agent?
Well, I feel like it's different. I mean, honestly, I want to ask you that question about like what makes a good relationship for you with an agent, because I love working with all my clients. Like the first thing my dad ever said to me is you have to like when you're recruiting somebody or going after them, he's like, the first test, which sounds so obvious, should be like, do you like them? Do you like them as a player? Do you like how they present themselves? Do you have an affinity for them? Not just like what other people say.
That's really good. Yeah. Because they can be the number one pick, but what if you didn't like them and they were.
But what if there's not a connection? Like it's probably not going to be a successful relationship. That's my take on it. But I also feel like this job, like it is such a privilege. Like, we're invited in many cases, not every case, but into like such personal spaces. So that's also part of it. And as I get older, like that has all changed. Like when I started doing this, I was sort of almost the same age.
Yeah,
as the athletes that I was working with.
And now they're getting younger and younger and younger.
They're young, and I'm like the same age as their parents. So my relationship has changed. I find that what they're nervous to tell me at first, I'm like, listen, I'm not your parents. I have seen and heard probably it all. So like, if you need help with anything, I'm here. Also, my phone, I have my client's number set so that like anytime I can always hear it ring. So, no, so that's the relationship. Like I'm here to help. I think one of the things I always, because it can border on like friendship or that kind of closeness, and I appreciate that, and I want to feel that way. But at the end of the day, like I work for my clients. My job, they are the CEO of their own business themselves. I am in a role where I will provide my experience, my guidance, my relationships, my contacts, all of those things. But at the end of the day, like, I work for you. So you set the agenda. You have to tell me what the guardrails are, right? So like with Jenny's has a very clear example of like when we first started working together, she would say to me, and it was, if you think about the time, in the late 2000s, early 2010s or whatever, some of the things that were going on, she was being asked to be on like the show Girls Next Door, or partner with Captain Morgan's, and because they're an MLB partner, or certain other things. And she was like, look, if a 13-year-old girl can't buy this, consume it, or connect to it because her parents wouldn't want her to, like, I don't want to, it's an automatic no from me. And that was such a fantastic guideline to be given, because I was like, great, I don't even have to bother you with somebody's anymore.
Like,
and it was also,
like, how is it when like, I know you might say, I know Party Next Girls isn't for my client, but what if your client like wasn't as like Jenny, that is smart because that's not my brand. But what if your client, you're like, that's not your brand, but they think it is? What do you do in that situation where it's like, where it might not be a good look for them, but I know they are the CEO? Like, how do you kind of navigate that?
Well, to be honest, I don't think I've had that many like real disagreements like that. I think usually we've already done the groundwork and we're pretty much on the same page about the direction we're trying to go. But I would just say, what would you would want somebody to say to you, like, I don't think this is a good idea?
I'm to keep it real type. Don't give me no sugar. Just, what is it? I would be like, just tell me, Erin, what is it? Just tell me, am I fired?
No, it's so fun. Like, I will just say, and my client, I think they'll tell you, I'm always just like, here's my opinion. I will do whatever you tell me to do.
Cool. I like
on
that.
this. And I just try to give them all the information. They have to have all the information to make the best decision for them. And we package that up, we give it to them, and then it's like, okay, what's next? So yeah, I mean, that's one thing I learned in the first few years of this job was I watched some of the people around me who shall remain nameless avoid giving their clients bad news, like to the point where they weren't picking up phone calls or responding to text. And then they would be like, hey, they would get me and they'd be like, hey, have you seen so-and-so? I need to get a hold of them. I need answers on this or that. And I would be like, looking at that person in my line of sight and being like, no, don't know where they are. Haven't seen them. Like, I'll try to get a hold of them and get them to call you back. And I just remember then being like, I have to learn how to deliver bad news because it's part of the job and it's part of the business. And so that was actually like a skill I worked on. I mean, that sounds crazy, but like,
who wants to be the bearer of bad news? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm really bad when it comes to confrontation. It's like, I really don't like it. So how can we just get past it quickly? But sometimes you have to meet it head on. So I guess that's the same concept.
But you tell me, like, I know you're asking the questions here, but like, you have representation. You have been in this business and in this space. Like, what makes, like, I am so happy for feedback from all people. Like,
awesome.
What makes a good agent to you?
All right, let's do this. So my basketball agent was Eric Wassell. I stayed with him my whole time. What I say that I value is like consistency. So I value like transparency and consistency. So it's like, are we close to this deal or are we not? Like, we're not close to every deal. Like, I know that. So it's like, just shoot it to me straight, because if you constantly make me think that we're close and we constantly keep on not getting, I'm gonna be like, what's up? But I would say that I just like somebody that's just transparent and I feel like is genuine. And now my post basketball career, I'm with WME and I'm with Rob Kozlowski, and I love that this is a whole new world. So it's like, I thought for basketball too, it's interesting because you see how you're working on brand deals and different things. My basketball agent was pretty much just my basketball overseas contract agent. So it wasn't as, I would probably say, as communicative as yours are now, because like you got Nafisha who has unrivaled. So we're going to talk about that, but that's a whole different world. So that's why I'm going to go to my agent Rob at WME. And I think that for me, it's like, I just would value, like you said, how you said, like, I work, like I value, like if I see somebody putting in that work, to me, like the effort, that's I would say what I probably value the most. Like Rob, he works, and so it's like we ain't gonna get every deal, but if it feels like an agent is chilling or like not in the mix, like if I was always telling my agent stuff, I hope
Yeah.
that my agent would have knowledge. I guess I would say
Yeah.
that, but I've never really been asked that before. Thank you for asking. Oh, do you have any other questions?
I'm sure I will. I always have questions.
Okay, well then let's get to it then, because you have clients, like you said, they're the CEO of their own brands, and we now WNBA players, we love to see it. There's big brands going on right now, and Nafisha Collier, shouts to the moms in the league. She has a new league that she started, 3v3 league with New York Liberty, Stewie, MVP. And so, what is that like now? It's called Unrivaled. How involved are agents when it comes to projects that their clients are building? Is this her own thing? Are you involved in it?
Yeah. Yes, it's her own thing. She and Stewie are doing this. They have an entire like team of people working on this. I am involved, obviously. I mean, I think so first of all, this isn't even the first time I've been through this process. I worked with another client who ultimately went on to very successfully launch PLL, the Premier Lacrosse League. So,
Erin, first of all, okay, what?
Yeah, I mean, it's his work. Like, I am not in any way, I don't want to ever, I think you guys as athletes are such incredible people, and the same qualities that drive you to success on the field or on the court makes you just like incredible business people when you apply the same energy, I guess, to a new venture. And so that's what Fee is doing right now. She's wholly committed to, finding new ways for players to have options to stay in the US in the off season. That's really the driver for this. And in terms of my involvement and my company's involvement, it's because, again, I'm like just the tip of the thin end of the wedge, or tip of the spear. We have just incredible relationships across so many businesses. I mean, Excel, I'm so proud to be part of Excel. Like I said, Mark Steinberg, who really very much enjoyed the Liberty game the other night, is, Tiger Woods, like career-long agent. And so he's involved in all of Tiger's business ventures. He's opening a club in New York with Justin Timberlake. He's got his golf tour. He's got all these things going on. Is it
like T squared? I think I saw something
about
that. Yeah.
So the ability to it's not just like what I know or what I've learned, the ability to tap into their background, their knowledge, the information they have, the relationships they have. We have, an incredible sales team at Excel, which I also think is like unusual in our space. It's extremely well organized and well run. It's large. So the ability to, like, the driver for any new league, it's sort of, to my understanding, falls into three buckets, right? You have the people who are coming in as investors. You have the media rights component of it, and then you have, so I guess four. You have the athletes who will commit to it, and then the brand partnerships that will help drive revenue, and in addition to the media rights deal that sort of reassures the investors and the athletes. So it's a very circular thing, but we can certainly contribute in a number of those different kind of buckets, whether it's other clients, whether it's brands that we consult for, or brands that we have relationships with. It's, even in terms of like organizational folks who are out there who do a really good job, just, being part of the conversation, providing thought, ideas, contacts, setting up meetings, whatever. I'm all in. I mean, I want Fee's success, and that of any other client too, to extend beyond their playing career. Like, that's so important for everybody. And I'm older, so
stop saying that. Like, we're not just looking at your face right now.
No. But I mean, like, I feel like I'm at the stage of life where I'm like, okay, I've been through this cycle with athletes now more than one time. And so, like, I know what comes next. I know what that looks like. And having something that you're already kind of nurturing and cultivating while you're still playing, I think is such an incredible gift, because not everybody knows. I mean, the other part of it is, like, everybody's different, and not everybody knows what they want to do next. Like,
True.
you also are exceptional in that way. Where I feel like you literally one day stepped off the court and then the next were like a media star / mogul. So I feel like trying to have those conversations can be interesting and a little tricky because everybody is just so different in terms of like what they envision their actual playing career to look like. But I love the process of like exploring and asking questions and then trying to help tee things up
I love
and
that
get it
though,
moving.
because it's like they're lucky to have you. You know what I mean? In the sense of like, I'm so happy for women's sports. Like, that's why this is so important because I was one of those players that basically I would have like loved to be able to stay home, like to your point of, and I know a lot of people are like, well, why didn't you? It's like, well, you have a certain amount of time that you can make probably the max amount of money. So yes, I could have stayed home and tried to figure it out, but I just didn't feel like it felt like it was a smarter decision financially to just go overseas. If there
Yep.
was other leagues like Unrivaled or different things of that nature, this is providing people options. So I think that's the thing that people don't realize is like there used to not be real options, but it's like now players have options. And I think that's the best part about how the game is growing. It's like I look at the Google commercial and I'm like, okay, I see you, Dejanay. And like you see another commercial, I see State Farm, and I'm like, okay, with Mark Cuban, come on. You know what I'm saying? Like Enrique and Mark Cuban. So I'm like, I I didn't see that before. I didn't see that type of versatility where I'm looking and I see that many commercials. Have you like do you see that uptick on the other side? Or brands now just like what has been that process from where you saw the uptick? When did it start? Maybe did you see that happen?
I mean, so it's completely different. Like there's not even a question. You know, years ago, and God forbid anybody finds some of my old emails. Like I would send these impassioned emails to people where I'd be like, could you just put a woman in this commercial? It would not change the substance of the commercial at all. And it would be so impactful. Like, and I'm sure people were like, who is this person? And why do I have to keep hearing from her? But for me, the opportunity for women to be broadcast in that way and seen in that light alongside players on the men's side who are truly their peers. Like they've the current like Sue Bird, Steph Curry, Carmex commercial where they're like comparing accolades will never not make me laugh. I've seen it a lot of times and every time I'm like, I mean, that's totally different. Enrique's State Farm commercial, amazing. Like that was such a huge opportunity. The Google spot. I mean, the wind is at our backs in women's sports, finally. I think the conversation when it switched to being, you know, women's sports are an undervalued asset. That kind of investment language really seemed to like pique everybody's interest. And then you see these like major players kind of getting in and going, oh, actually, this makes a lot of sense for me. So I think it was a couple things.
It was like
it was like a light bulb moment. And I would say like between 2018 and 2020. And I want to also say that like, you know, ESPN's continual coverage of Sabrina Ionescu and her many, many triple doubles and how that sort of like galvanized an audience and like her connection to Kobe and Kobe's support of women's basketball writ large, I think was so instrumental in changing like the public dialogue about, I mean, it hasn't wholly changed. I still see those like, sandwich and kitchen comments, but you know, it's really, it's tipped the scales a little in our balance. In our
what do you think? I know this is a tough question, but so what do you think about like even statistically how it's harder or we don't see the statistics for non-white athletes getting ad advertisements? There was a study done about the WNBA specifically. So what do you think about that? Because I mean, there is this, it's the double-edged sword. Like you're saying, on the one hand, Sabrina and the following might have helped and it did help. And then there's on the other hand, sometimes now people feel like, well, in some spots, there may have been someone that was better for that situation, or I don't know, but
I think that conversation is always worth having. I see it too. I sort of keep a tally in my head. I think we all do, right? Of like, we are, generally speaking, as a community, I think, in women's sports, and correct me if you're wrong, but I think we're generally interested in fairness and equity or equality. And there's always more work that can be done. So one thing I did not say on this at the beginning, like before I started working in this space, I had a very different career path. I worked in the arts. I was a curator at a contemporary museum, and that's what I studied. Like, that is what my background is. Like, listening to your Sheila Johnson interview, I was like, first of all, Ms. Johnson is a legend. I like worship her basically. So I was super pumped to listen to that interview. But she talked about her concert violinist phase of her life, and I similarly had an art curator phase a long time ago. But one of the principles of creating like museum shows and exhibitions is really like being strategic and thoughtful about the composition of things, right? So like you look at your list of shows for the next 3 to 5 years, you're looking at the content of each show and looking at it teaches you to take a step back from that and say, is this right? Is this fair? Is this the representation that should reasonably exist in a league that is, and I don't know the statistic, but 75 to 80% women of color. Yeah. So that's how I feel about it.
And this is nothing against Sabrina. I always like to just make sure I do. Because Sabrina doesn't have a choice in the matter. So
no, it's the brands that are choosing. Like we can advocate as much as we want for our clients, and we can point these things out. But at the end of the day, we're not the one. My old boss used to say, it's the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rule. So whoever's
that's a different golden rule than we learned.
I know it's a different one than I was familiar with previously, but I also.
That's the rich golden rule. I gotta learn that. Oh man, listen. I could literally talk to you all the time. I just realized it's like, okay, Erin, I have to let you go. I'm sorry, but thank you so much for just being transparent. I think that conversations matter, and I loved having this conversation with you. So I appreciate you joining me here on MoCo.
Thank you so much for having me. I told you, I don't think we were on officially then, but super humbled by the invitation to be here and really, really grateful to be able to talk to you. So thank you.
All right. So I loved hearing from Erin Kane because she showed that athletes, they're equipped right now to start their own leagues like Unrivaled, or to run their own companies like we see some of these executives doing. But, she also set the table for like, there's a lot going on that people may or may not know about. So we're about to get into MoCo Newsroom and just hit on these topics real quick. Let's get it. Well, we're going to make it do what it do. So this is what's going to happen. We're going to talk about it. It's going to work. Period, poo. So listen, we got MoCo Newsroom coming through where there's a lot of topics to hit on. So I'm going to just run down the topics, and then I'm going to see what the crew thinks about it. If y'all have something, say something. If you ain't got nothing, that's cool too. And I'm starting with the news that I feel like was like, come on, baby. Yes. So Shaq and AI became the president and vice president of Reebok, respectively. And as their first move, they signed Angel Reese, who, as we know, to Reebok. Big MIL sign. And Shaq said, listen, this was what one of my first appointments was going to be. This is how we feel. This is how I feel about it. This is what we doing here at Reebok. So thoughts on Angel Reese? I mean, I seen tweets saying like, oh, Reebok about to be dope again. Thoughts, comments. What's up, crew? Snoop, what's up?
Okay, before we hit on Angel, let's just hit on Allen Iverson. He's a real big favorite of mine. And I know he's had a few rough years. And so I am just elated. I can't even put it any other way to see that he's getting an opportunity to shine and make a little money for his pocket and everything. So that part I am tickled about. I was just
that part. Serena, wait a minute.
My mom, just fun fact, my mom used to do his hair back in Jamaica, Queens, when they used to live in.
Was it his hair or his mom's hair?
His mom's hair. Did I say
you said his hair? Yeah.
My bad. Yeah, my mom used to do his mom's hair. And but my mom said that after he kind of got big and stuff, they moved to Long Island, so she wasn't going to Queens that much no more. But that's just a little fun fact.
Shouts to
Okay.
AI's mom is iconically known, by the way, for braiding his hair on the sidelines of a game. Just a little fun fact. But anybody else, any thoughts on
Well,
Reebok?
let me just say about
Snook got some more.
Angel, and I'm happy about them doing Angel Reese. It seems like I've been watching all the things that have been going on with signings and shoes and everything. So I'm just happy to see a little bit of positivity going toward. I don't even know how to put this. I'm just happy about Angel getting signed with Reebok.
There it is.
Yes, yes, I
Anybody
love
else?
Giving
it.
some love, the
Yeah.
inclusion of it all. That's the inclusion of it all, the blackness of it all. Salute to all our Caucasian fans, listeners, and Caucasus Mountains. We love y'all equally. But it's just awesome to see
I'm dead.
our heroes, Shaquille O'Neal, Allen Iverson, are doing these moves and placing our young sister in a great position, and that's just so beautiful. She's one of the pioneers. LSU connection between her
Yeah,
and Shaq.
lit.
It couldn't be more beautiful, man. I
Just
love
say it, Mr. J. Just say it.
Oh, Mr. J. So listen, that's a good transition.
I love that. Yeah,
That's a
true.
good transition, because if y'all don't know why we calling, you might know him as Juju, but if y'all don't know why we calling him Mr. J, it's because he just dropped, baby. We got Juju has his. Listen, tell us about it. When did it drop? I know Serena been playing the song with Smetty on there. Listen, tell us about Mr. J, please.
10-10, you feel me? Last Tuesday, salute to the old school. I put it out on a Tuesday like Sam Goody. You did.
Okay.
Basically, it means a lot to me because every person on this song represents a piece of my life. My partner JT, he represents where I come from. My sister Smetty represents where I am, and my sister Eli, I feel like she is the future, and she represents what I want to be, which is like just so excited about the music game, and I've been seeing her do her thing for so long, and it's an honor to have worked with them on this project, and it's an honor to talk about it in front of the Renee Montgomery and the Snook and the MoCo, you feel me? The Serena and the Roy. Thank y'all so much.
But listen, no, we gonna keep talking
Well,
about it.
thank you for blessing us with good music.
Yes.
Like, go
yes.
download it wherever you get your music. Download it, Mr. J. But Juju, so talk to me about it, because I follow Russ. And if anybody follows Russ, he talks a lot about the journey of an independent artist. He talks about the pros. He talks about the cons. So, like, what is that like for you? You dropped your EP. You said 10-10 on a Tuesday. So, what is that like from an independent standpoint? Like, how has that been for you?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It's from an independent standpoint, all the work is up to me. So it's like there is no help. There is no manager that's calling people to give me an interview. There is no person setting up shows for me to perform at. So it's a bit intimidating at first, you know. Especially whenever you putting something out that you care so much about, and people might not like it, and you also being the executive for that person as well could be a bit challenging. But the way my God works, I put all my faith in him, and I know he gonna get me through.
Amen,
I
brother.
love that. I mean, Lady Gaga, Renee and I talk about this all the time. Lady Gaga also talks about how she had to be her own manager. She was calling people, making pretend that she was somebody else. She even put on like an English accent or something, like a British
Juju,
accent.
how's your English accent?
It's quite good, bruv. It's literally.
I thought it was a little bit more Australian, but it's cool.
I love that. So listen, this is the struggles of independent artists. And so that's why I'm bringing it to everyone's attention. So it ain't going to hurt you none to literally, if you're listening to this right now, to just go on there, type in Mr. J, Juju, then find it, put the little plus sign so that it downloads, add to the whole library, just go through. It ain't going to hurt you none. And the time that I'm telling you to do this right now, it's going to hurt you none to just do it. Show some love. It's not easy. This is bootstrapping. He on here right now. He still got an album he put out. He on here with us. So it's not going to hurt you none. Mr. J, type it in, Juju. Just push the plus sign and get right to it. Listen to pieces of Juju. So I'm just throwing that out there. We're going to get back to our MoCo Newsroom, but that is part of our MoCo Newsroom, because this is news to me. When I got homies doing stuff, it's like, that's
new music alert.
New music,
breaking
okay?
News.
Breaking news, new music. And speaking of breaking news, since we're going to hop right back into it, because this one's a doozy. From TMZ Sports, I'm going to just read the tweet. Terrell Owens struck by a car after argument during a pickup basketball game, the cops say.
Wait, what? So why did they word it? Did the person that he was arguing with hit him with the car? Like, why did they word it that way?
There's a lot of questions. First of all, I hope T.O.'s okay.
This is crazy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let me first say, I hope T.O. is okay. I'm hoping that it wasn't nothing serious. My first thoughts was when I thought a white man can't jump, and it's like pickup games can get serious. Okay, like this is, I don't know what happened, but that's the news. TMZ reported it. This is all we have right now. Like that Terrell Owens was struck by a car after an argument during a pickup basketball game, the cops say.
I just wonder if the fight flowed into the street and that's what happened. You know, when you get to fight and you don't be looking at where you're going, you know, and all of that. And, you know, you could get thrown or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
I don't understand the title. It's just... It's so much
the headline.
It's so much right and wrong with it. Like they give you a piece of detail. They don't tell you if the man's okay.
Like, is he okay?
The cops are the ones saying. The cops are the ones saying.
It's
like
clickbait.
it is. No, it's completely clickbait, but it tells you everything and nothing all at the same time. Everything and nothing.
So we're gonna just
we definitely clicked on it.
The cops say it sounded like they beat him up and then say he got hit by a car.
The police report. It's a lie.
There's a lot going on. So we're going to just wait to find out more, but that is news. And moving on to some more news, which now the WNBA, I talked about it a lot. I talk about it quite often, but everything's on the rise. And so even job hirings are on the rise. And the reason I'm saying that is because we have two new job hirings in the WNBA. Teresa Weatherspoon got hired at the Chicago Sky. So we're going to talk about, well, actually, you know what? Let's react to that. So Teresa Weatherspoon, if people don't know, she was with the NBA for a very long time, for the Pelicans to be exact. And then she became available. Well, we knew as soon as she was available that she was going to get gobbled up. Chicago Sky was like, get over here. And basically now they have a legendary coach. New York Liberty fans, I know y'all know about Teresa Weatherspoon, but reactions, thoughts on Teresa Weatherspoon now being the head coach for the Chicago Sky.
Well, I'll just go first. I'll jump in and say I'm just tickled because, you know, there has to be some kind of transition for players to go to. And so this is like she's made one step. Now she's made two. So, you know, maybe three, you know, like you did, Renee. Maybe she'll make another step up and, you know, become an owner or whatever. But there has to be something, and there has to be some rewards for players, female players especially, who play the game, somewhere for them to go and to progress upwardly after they leave the court.
Okay.
I love that. I mean, and from what I hear is the head coaching position is pretty good right now because their pay is a big topic of discussion right now.
True.
So the head coaches are getting paid a lot of money, as they should. But, you know, people have thoughts about that. So, you know, I agree with you, Snug. There has to be some kind of upward, you know, pipeline or something. Exactly.
I love that. Anybody?
And salute to Dwayne Wade. So, like,
yes.
Dwayne Wade coming in and having a hands-on effect. Show that to the rest of these people out here, D Wade. The little babies of the world, the LeBrons of the world, all the athletes of the world, Justin Fields, everybody. Brother, it don't take much. Sit down and do some stuff you love about, and when you're doing it, care for it. Show care for it. And Dwayne Wade is showing that he cares in Chicago. Who else better to hire as your head coach than a legend? You feel me? Legend, PG. Like, salute to everybody involved over there in Chicago. Great move.
Big time move.
Yeah, it seems like they're doing the same thing that Reebok is doing. You know, they're going the right direction. You know, like somebody over there is thinking. Somebody over there has, you know, like sees what's going on, and they see, okay, this is the right move for that. So I love that. And just I forgot to mention before, I love what Shaq is doing too, because he's actually really, you know, he's putting his money where his mouth is, because he even represents Haley Jones, who's on the Atlanta Dream. So he's representing different women's basketball, you know, personalities, because he knows that that's the next big wave. Everybody knows that is all eyes on women's sports right now.
And shouts to Nadia and all the other ownership over there. But then we're going to move on to Snook, go ahead, Snook.
Oh, well,
got
I
some
just
too after Snook.
cannot. I just
Let's
can't
go.
move on until I talk about Kobe. A lot of these players, the NBA players especially, they have daughters, and Kobe was a prime example of, my daughter, she wants to play basketball, so I'm going to get involved. So all of you NBA players out there who have daughters, let's get them on the court. And let's get some some daddy's girls out there.
Let's go, Juju.
Like y'all said, the showing that you care is so big. And I do not want to do this, and I do not mean to do this, but we just had an Iowa women's basketball game, the biggest attended game in the history.
55,646 fans.
That is so amazing, and you do such a disservice to it by programming it against the WNBA championship. I'm saying the people in charge, I know y'all care, but we got to roll up our sleeves and do a little bit better job, because you can't tell me that Caitlin Clark fans don't want to see the championship. You can't tell me that, man. So let's try to get it a little better. I'm sorry for doing that right quick.
No, I love that.
No, and is that up to like because Renee and I, we were talking about this too, so Renee mentioned that's the TV stations that do that, correct, Renee?
Yeah, I mean, you have to go in available slots. So it's just like anything else. It's like if there is something slated for that time, they're going to give you the available slots. And here's another thing. I mean, our championships fall into NFL, the start of the NFL season. Well, unfortunately, Saturdays are going to be college football. Sundays are NFL. Mondays are NFL. Thursdays are NFL. When the NBA comes back, the NBA has Tuesdays and Thursdays on TNT, Wednesdays and Fridays on ESPN for the NBA. Where are we going to be? Like, I mean, and Roy's talking about
Roy
the
mentioned,
playoffs, the World
playoff.
Series.
It's just like a relationship, though. You make time for what you want to do. So
okay,
I like that.
I know with scheduling issues, but this is important, just as important as all these other things. So let's make time for our product.
And I mean,
can you tweak the schedule? Maybe if we know up front, we're talking about all of this, maybe it's up to us to be a little bit more progressive with thinking about our season and programming it a little bit better, so that we kind of just miss all of that, right? We get right on the cusp or the edge of it, of all of that beginning, so that we're the prime thing to see at that particular time.
Yeah, and we're going to move on, because look, the MoCo Newsroom, we done got stuck on. Hold on.
I got one more thing to say before we move
right
on.
Ahead.
So it was put out that this was the most viewed finals debut ever, right? This game one, and then it dramatically, and this is public as well, it dramatically dropped for game 2. And Renee and I, we were talking about this morning. I said, okay, I think I just simply asked, why is game 4 so why is it tomorrow? Why is it so many days from game 3? I was just asking, just regular in general asking. And I think that my theory is that they wait too long. They space out the games too far apart. So then with all the excitement from game 1, people thinking that they're going to turn right back around maybe 2 days later and watch game 2, or 3 days later, and watch game 2. But then it's like more, I don't even know how many, 4 or 5 days later, and the momentum kind of dies down. So I think that, people to that point, the TV schedule needs to be better, because all the excitement is there. And then when you wait too long, then that starts to fizzle out, and that's just for anything.
No, that's a good point. And I think even how the semifinals had a very long break in between the semifinals and the finals, those are things that, like, as fans, as consumers now, we're engaged, and we're like, we do, kind of to Juju's point, if I'm a women's basketball fan, of course I want to see Caitlin Clark and what they did, 55,000 fans. And then, of course, I want to see the WNBA finals as well. And then, honestly, if you're a fan like me, I told y'all already on Twitter, I found my tribe. I said, yo, who's out here watching women's basketball, the NFL, and the NBA? Like, so that's me. Like, that's my tribe. And boy, did that tweet go viral. So I was like, hold on a second. There's a group here that we like all of the above. Like Sundays, we just now got to the point in our household, babe. What did I say about Sundays? It's like, I'm like in my vibe now. It's like, oh,
Sundays
wow.
are for football. That's it.
Okay, you see, she already knows now. You see what we doing? We got it together. Okay, like I didn't got.
It gotta. So sorry for dragging this on. I know Roy is mad. I get it, brother. But you can't tell me that Las Vegas Raiders fans ain't Aces fans. So we got to do it. And I'm a customer, so I'm right as hell.
That's true.
That's the thing. But we all customers.
You're a fan,
so
so
right.
you're the audience.
That's true.
I love it.
That's lit. That's true. And so, okay, so let's keep it moving then on the topics. Now we've already talked about the hiring of Teresa Weatherspoon, and there was another coach that was also hired. And it's kind of like it's a web, okay, in a sense of the coach that was hired. His name was, and I want to make sure. I'm trying to find. Where's his name at, babe? Oh, there it is, Nate Tibbetts. Okay, so his name is Nate Tibbetts, and this actually kind of brings me to the thing. So I'm going to read a tweet from M.A. Vopel, and M.A. writes for ESPN, and the tweet kind of sums up the energy of the hire, because there's a lot that goes into when you choose who you choose to represent your team. And so this is, end quote, concern over Phoenix Mercury head coach choice is many layered, including about implicit bias in hiring. A Black woman who played in the WNBA was elevated to the Mercury's interim head coach to clean up the messes of the previous year and a half and work to rebuild the players' confidence. So if you say, well, Nikki Blue's record after taking over was 7-21, I would defy the greatest coaches in history to somehow magically X and O their way to a much better with the roster construction, injuries, illness, outside issues, and dysfunction the Mercury dealt with. Still, if the decision was to go another direction, okay. But the choice is someone who has no experience in the WNBA or women's basketball, has some G League head coaching experience, but has primarily been an assistant and steps in reportedly as the highest paid coach in the WNBA. Suns and Mercury owner Matt Ishbia has invested heavily in a new Mercury practice facility and says he wants to make the WNBA's top organization there. It's great to see that commitment, but Mercury's high-profile hiring so far raised questions about whether the qualifications, air quotes, are what they are. None of this is meant to question how good Coach Nate Tibbetts is or will be. He may do a great job in Phoenix. It's about the opportunities that Black women in particular don't get, especially in a business where they represent the majority of the workforce. If a man who had spent most of his career in women's basketball or the WNBA and or had a lengthy coaching track record got the Mercury job, there would be less rancor about this hire. None of this is anti-male. It's about how hard Black women especially must work to even get a fair chance. When the message is, now we really are investing, and now we really care, and now we really are going to be the best from a new owner, it's especially disheartening not to get that chance. So lastly, for those who may say, well, Becky Hammond's coaching experience was all NBA before she became a WNBA head coach. If you don't consider her 16 years as a WNBA player a clear difference from the Mercury hire, we can't have a serious conversation. So that's kind of sums up the whole gist of the hire of the Phoenix Mercury. Cole, you are rolling your eyes, so let's just go right to Cole. Cole, what's your thoughts, Cole?
I don't have words that are politically correct to put to use right now. I just think my eye roll and my shoulder shrug it should be enough. I just think that it's I mean, it says what it says. And if y'all have questions, ask me, but it says what it says. It's like you purposely let this woman drown in that mess. And then you say, great job. But we're going to hire someone, and when they go searching people out, I understand when you search out coaches, there are certain criteria. How do you have where was the list? How did his resume get to the top? That's my only question. It's like, how did his resume get to the top? And like they said, I'm not going to say the man is not going to do a great job or he's not qualified to do it. Well, actually, I'm going to say he's not qualified to do it, but he's not going to do a great job in my show. But my point is that how did his resume that always amazes me. How did his resume get to the top? It's almost like an experiment. Like, let's see what happened. It's almost like, what was that movie where, they took a person off the street? I think it was Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Trading
places. And they just threw him up there. And then they're like, you know what? If we tell him he can do it, then he can do it. But that's not fair to people who are already in the position, who have worked, who have experience, who have been working with teams and developing their coaching and their basketball acumen to just pull somebody and say, yeah, you know what? Go ahead, try it. We'll see what happens. So I'm sick of hearing it. I'm tired. And ain't nothing else I can say about it. So I don't have nothing nice to say. So I ain't gonna say nothing else at all.
Mic drop. That's it.
Ditto.
There was a lot of Twitter talk that was kind of the same sentiment. You know, people were quote tweeting it. LaChina Robinson quote tweeted it and said, "Excuse me." There was Don Montgomery, friend of the show, quote tweeted it and said, "Now if I speak." So there's a lot of people that it has nothing to do with Nate, because it's like, again, Nate is probably going to go on to be a great coach the same way that Nikki Blue could have went on to be a great coach. I think is the point that a lot of people are making. And Juju?
Is Nikki Blue still a part of the coaching staff?
Well, usually if you hire a head coach, the normal protocol is that they get to hire their own assistant coaches, their own team.
Ain't that
So
about
I'm assuming,
a biscuit?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that Nate will assemble his own team. Now, because of all of this noise, it could he might, a smart thing to do, and Olive Branch would be to have Nikki be on the team, but you never know if Nikki even wants to be.
Yeah, I don't even want it. Go
yeah,
ahead.
you see, you don't even know now.
And here we go. We need people to rise up through the ranks and be in the management ownership group so that they can help stop things like this from happening. Like I said, if there's no one in the room when the decisions are made, this is why these crazy decisions are made. No one's in the room.
Completely tone deaf.
And it's tough because, and here's the thing, because that's the thing, Cole, I think you hit on it, because it's like, I wholeheartedly believe that the owner over there at Phoenix, Matt, I know that he's trying to do the best of the best. Like, that's the problem, where it's like, I know that he's like, I'm going to invest the money. I'm going to get them a facility. I'm going to invest the money and the staff. I'm going to get them the best of the best. And that's why when we're talking about like who's running things in positions of power, when you're connected to the product, or you're connected, you would have probably known that, man, if we have this much money, maybe we should go out and get a top college coach, because right now the college coaches in the are making more than WNBA coaches. So if you had somebody like, oh, you want to invest, Matt? Oh, okay. You want to really put your money where your mouth is. This is the conversation we had with Larry G. Larry G is our principal owner here at the Atlanta Dream. I'm like, listen, if we want to keep Tanisha, if we want to keep Coach Wright, we're going to have to put our money where our mouth is, because the college teams is out there giving out contracts. So it's unfortunate, because it's like, I'm really excited. Like, I'm so excited that we have owners coming in that want to invest money, because that was a big problem before, in a sense of that money isn't. So it's like, shouts to Matt. I want to shout out Matt, because it's like, Matt, you did that facility that you're creating, the money that you're putting behind the Mercury. It's like, shouts to you. And it's just unfortunate that this happened, because it's like, I know Matt means well. It's just this hire, unfortunately, it's like, man, we wish that it could have probably been somebody in the W community, but Juju?
Yeah, I think it's like they say about football coaches. There's something to be said about you're a great coach, but are you a leader of men? And I feel like until you put this man in charge of women, you have to make sure that this man can be a leader of women. And there's so many proven leaders of women that are scattered around this great country, this great United States of America. And it's like you say, bro, to give it to a novice, salute to Matt, salute to the new coach, but bigger salute to our sister Nikki, bro. You did such a good job. Them Mercury was dead in the water when she took over. She put a spark of life. She had on the orange and black 12s on the sideline. We salute you.
You did. No, and that's for real, because even on the same sense, shouts to Elena Beard. I know that she was trying to put together an ownership group to bring a team to the Oakland area or the Bay Area. And I know that maybe their group didn't get the bid. And so it's just shouts to those ones that are laying the foundation, because it's like, that's tough. It really is tough when it's like, I know Nikki, I've seen interviews where she felt like, you know what, even though I inherited a tough situation, because that was a tough situation that she inherited when she got that interim coach job, even though she inherited such a tough situation. I watched one of her interviews and it was like, oh, she was supposed to be a head coach. So I'm glad like she got a team now. I really did think that she was at least going to get a chance, like to get a chance to run it her way and to sign some players. So it's just tough because, again, former player, did all the right steps, was an assistant coach, did the college route, assistant coach again in the pros, then made it to that seat. So it's tough, but her story not finished yet. I'm sure somebody's going to see that she did an amazing job.
And her story is a lot of people's stories, a lot of women's stories.
Literally, it's a lot of people's stories. So it's like with the WNBA and even the audiences, me and Serena talk about it a lot. Audiences are engaged now. You're not about to get one over on audiences anymore. Like audiences will literally call out a TV show when Insecure had AKAs that weren't AKAs on the screen acting like AKAs. I think there was a little like energy from the AKAs or something. So it's like, even when you're making fictional content at this point, fans are engaged.
It has to be accurate. Yeah,
it has to be.
Yes. And he's going to have to take maybe a year, maybe a couple of years to get attuned to the culture. He doesn't know anything about the culture.
But you know what? He might be amazing. See, this is the thing. It's like, I don't know how he'll be, and I wish him the best because I'm always going to wish the best for people. So it's like, he's going to be amazing. It's not about how he's going to perform. It's about somebody else's opportunity that they don't have that chance to perform. So that's all it is. It's like, I wish them the best. Like, I always wish everybody the best. So it's like,
I'm just so sick of us saying that, though. It's getting tiring. It's getting tiring to say. It's like, that's a sentiment of like when people say something terrible out their mouths and they give like a half apology and you're like, okay, they said it because they gotta say it, they lose and stuff. I feel like every time that happens to a female, especially a Black female, and she's worked her way up and they say, you know what, it's going to happen for her. And then how many times does it not happen? And how many times does it happen for the Knicks of this particular country, especially in female sports arenas? And so I feel like we always want to tip our hat and say, but she did a great job, and that's all great and daily, and we give her those props and everything. And like you said, it's nothing to Nick. It's almost the same. We hear the same thing all the time. And so, good luck, Nick. I hope the team does do well. But I think if you're smart, you do keep her on the staff because I mean, honestly, they might feel some type of way too. So you might want to keep
the wrong name. You just called him Matt. You just called him Nick.
I'm sorry.
His name is Nick.
I know it's Nick.
I'm sorry, Nick.
Everybody.
I'm sorry.
And again, we don't mean any disrespect. It's the thing. That's just
it's so crazy too. If you look at the history of the last few years out there in Phoenix, well, Sandy Blondell, now she's getting ready to try to get her a championship, and she struggled out there with them before Nikki Blue came on.
And we wish you the best to the Phoenix Mercury, and we're gonna. And on that note, because it's the truth. This is the thing. We're fans of the WNBA. At the end of the day, whenever we talk about these things, we talk about it from, we've been down with the WNBA since day one. And we mean that literally. I'm older than the WNBA. So we've been down for the WNBA since day one.
It was in my stomach when it came into existence.
I wasn't in your stomach. I was 10 when the WNBA started. So I'm talking about we was with the WNBA shooting in the gym. So we got a right to say how we feel. And this is just only things we're saying are things because we love it. We bleed it. We are the brand. And so that's what we do around here because hello, MoCo, it's a generational thing. And so is the WNBA. And now it's a part of us. You see it. We're in the ownership. We're a part of it. So we want nothing but look, we are the brand. That's it. Okay, so we want nothing but the best. So this is love. These are called, love hugs. Sometimes it hurts. We'll see y'all next week.